Hi guys, thank you for attending, whoever's attending, and sorry about the late start. I know we're a couple of minutes behind schedule. So just in the meantime, I want to just tell you a little bit about what today's webinar is about. We have a guest speaker from University Canada West. His name is Shimon, and he'll be here to answer your questions about studying in Canada, about the university in particular, about Vancouver, British Columbia, what the post-study work permits are, what the opportunities are post graduation, and some other bits and pieces. So make sure, please, that you have all your questions at the end, and you're ready to. And we'll have a bit of a short Q&A. But any questions you do have during the webinar, please do ask them from time to time, and we'll try and answer them during the stream. So just to add Shimon on. Hi, Shimon.
Hi, Rahul. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Lovely, thanks.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So I just gave everyone a little bit of a brief about what our webinar is about today. So it's about, obviously, thank you for coming, and thank you for offering to tell us all about University Canada West, new opportunities, etc., where your new campus is, what opportunities are, and then some general stuff about studying in Canada and what students can expect there, what are the advantages, and other bits and pieces. So, and then we'll come on to scholarships and how to apply and what benefits or discounts or other bits and pieces are available for students that are looking to apply soon. So, without further ado, just to introduce yourself if you can, and then I'll start with the questions.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Rahul. It's a pleasure always to be back with Admissify. Absolutely one of our best partners sitting out of India. So I'm Shimon Isaac, and I represent UCW across the Indian subcontinent, majorly in India, across cities both in the north and south. I am responsible for basically recruitments of students from the Indian subcontinent, like I mentioned earlier, but I also love to meet and interact all with our potential students, current students as well, talk about how life, for a student living in a foreign country can be, especially for someone like India. So a lot of them might not know it. I've actually been through the entire system myself. So I am actually a product of the system. So I left when I was 17. I studied in Australia. I lived there for a few years, and then I came back to India, did a couple of years worth of work in India, and then moved out to Canada. Been there ever since, and now looking forward to sort of spread the same message across.
Fantastic. Yeah, look, I think in terms of our students and people watching are quite lucky to be able to speak to somebody who can say that they've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, and then is able to advise people on having done the whole journey themselves. So I think that's very crucial, and it's a real strength that you have, but very crucial for people who are listening to be able to benefit from that experience. So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
No, absolutely, pleasure's all mine. Thanks, Rahul. So,
I'll start with. Shall I start with the questions?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, and then I'll ask you some more questions about how Australia was versus Canada, seeing as you can actually answer that question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. All right. Well, look, tell us a little bit about the university and where your campus is, and other maybe benefits of. Actually, let's start off with Canada as a whole. Why don't we do that? Tell me a little bit about studying in Canada. What were your advantages? You can talk about that maybe relative to what your study was in Australia, but what the differences are, what the benefits are at the moment.
Right. So, right now Canada sits in the top 3 of student destinations in the world. And I think COVID has also sort of helped Canada get to that spot, because most other countries, especially Australia, New Zealand, and a couple of other, countries where English is the first language, have more or less shut their borders for quite some time. So it's become difficult for students to sort of, try and get there. But Canada has remained open. I think apart from the UK, it's the only other country that's sort of has a plan in place for students coming into the country. So that's the first big plus point. And they've also altered the the requirements to go on and get your study permit and your study work visa. So the 3 years that you get after your study as well, they've gone on to be a little more lenient with that. So you can spend some time of your program studying online in your home country, and then you can come and finish the rest of it, and that will not affect the post-study work visa at all. So these are some of the changes that they've made. But now moving more into what Canada really is, I think it's one of the most multicultural countries in the world, especially if we zoom in a little more into Vancouver and British Columbia. Definitely one of the most liberal and one of the most cosmopolitan cities I've ever been to. Almost, I think, about 40 to 50% of the population in Vancouver are all immigrants. So they've all come into Canada as students or through various other immigration programs in the 70s, 80s, and the 90s. So there haven't really been too many people going into Vancouver in the last 15, 20 years, but now things are changing again because all of a sudden Vancouver's become a hotspot. Especially for students, it's become this huge career destination because the government has realized that all the people who migrated in the early 70s, 80s, and the 90s are now about to leave the workforce permanently. So they've got this huge gap to fill. They've got this massive void that they need to sort of fill. And the only place that they can look out for is, of course, international students, right? So it's all of a sudden it's boomed. It's taken over Toronto in terms of a work destination and also a student destination because it actually offers a lot more. Because Vancouver City, it's located on the coast. It's got that LA vibe of Canada, so a lot of people have actually nicknamed it as the LA of Canada. Very liberal, like I mentioned earlier. A great spot for students because it offers you a lot of things to do, not just while you're studying, but of course
it's also a lot safer. It's also a lot safer than LA, isn't it?
100%. If you're counting that as well.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, not right now, especially. I know. I don't know if you guys have been watching again. There's quite a few shootings been going on again. So Canada, of course, very much like Australia, extremely safe country. We have proper gun laws in place, so that definitely helps. So going back to Vancouver, a lot of people have this assumption that Toronto is actually the corporate hub of Canada, but in all honesty, Vancouver is in fact the corporate hub. If you look at it from a job perspective, from an industry perspective, Toronto houses a lot of the financial corporations, whereas Vancouver houses all of the tech, the software, and the other industries. So that way, a lot of the head offices for Canada are actually situated in Vancouver itself. So that's another huge plus point.
It's kind of like the Mumbai of Canada as opposed to the Delhi in that it's the financial hub, isn't it, really?
Yeah, so what I'd actually put it across this way. I'd say Vancouver is actually more or less like the Bangalore of India.
Okay.
Because it's got a lot of the tech giants there, it's got a lot of the software giants, and all the new startups are also pouring into Vancouver because of the ease of business and the kind of support that the British Columbia government is actually offering. When you compare it to the other provinces and stuff, it's very hard to keep up with what they're offering. So that way they've managed to sort of stay afloat in the last 20 years, even though they didn't have too many people coming in. But now they've realized it's time to start rebuilding the economy. And right now it seems to be the perfect time because by 2028, and these are actual stats that I keep talking to students about, in the next 7 years, the BC government has released a statement that it wants to add nearly 1 million jobs in the next 7 years.
Right.
So that's a big number. That's a massive number. Out of that 1 million, they're looking at least 650,000 of them who are permanently going to leave the workforce. Right. So nearly 65% jobs have to be filled. It's not like new jobs will be created and then these people will have to get in. These are jobs that are already existing that need to have someone come and fill in the shoes.
And there's not actually an existing sort of domestic population that are out of work in that kind of larger number. So they actually have to have immigrant workforce coming into the country to fulfill that, don't they?
Absolutely. I mean, see, and also with the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau having his vision very clear and saying that, he wants to be very immigrant friendly. He wants to open up the borders for everyone, right? So it kind of fits in with that larger picture that he has as well. So I think, it's a very hand in glove plan that they have, the province and the federal government. So they definitely need a lot of immigrant workers right now. And the only place that they're looking for is international students.
Fantastic. Okay, well, look, that sounds really, really good. I was going to just reiterate that, look, from those two points that you mentioned, which I think are very, very crucial. Number one, multicultural. It's got a massive Indian population, and Justin Trudeau's government is quite a liberal government. So it's always been very, very friendly to immigration and to the Indian diaspora over there, as well as the fact that I think that's going to continue. If we compare it to other governments in the world, maybe even the UK included in that, but particularly America, much more conservative governments, which aren't going to be which aren't as friendly as Canada is, in terms of post-study work options and etc. etc. The other thing I was going to say is, out of that, which I thought was really, really crucial, is the post-study work permit not being affected by online classes. So, like you said, because of the pandemic and because it keeps on getting higher and then lower and higher and lower in a different sort of a scale in different countries, I think it's very, very important maybe to stress and for students to understand that actually your rights in terms of post-study work permit rights aren't affected, even if you have to do certain classes online if you're unable to travel or because of COVID stuff. Is that right?
Right. Yeah, that's actually true. So what they've actually done is, earlier the plan that they've had was until the 31st of April, where all of your online study would count towards your post-study work visa. Now they realize that, there's even more, because now students are more inclined to go to Canada. Like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot more applications that are coming in, and even we as UCW have seen a lot more applications in the last couple of months compared to the last 6 months, because everybody knows that now Canada's opened its borders, and the biggest plus point is it's not going to affect the post-study work visa. Let's be honest, about 60 to 70% of the students look forward to the post-study work visa, because that itself, right, that itself sort of defines
one of the biggest selling points. Yeah, absolutely.
It is, right, because it gives, like, I don't think it's possibly, I wouldn't call it being given something on a silver platter to you, but it's actually a platform that a lot of students really look forward to, because I've utilized that, right? When I went to Australia, I had an opportunity to utilize that, and that itself was the experience that shaped the rest of my career. And I was able to maneuver my way and then find my own direction. And I think that post-study work visa is something that really a lot of students can make the most out of, especially if they want to look at a longer picture of migrating.
Fantastic, fantastic. So talking about coming back to sort of advantages and disadvantages of studying in Canada as a whole, somebody has asked as well, what are the difficulties faced by Indian students in Canada? So can you give us and we've talked about some of the good bits, do you want to maybe mention some of the pitfalls or some of the pit points that students should look out for when studying in Canada?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, there's nothing's ever perfect, right? We'll just go with that first tagline right there. So some of the experiences that I've heard of, or I was not a student in Canada, so I can't really speak for student experience there, but firsthand testimonials and firsthand experiences that I've heard from students basically say that the first initial few months is a struggle, which is 100% the truth. Anywhere you go, you could go to Australia, you could go to America, you can go to Canada as well. The first 6 months is going to be a struggle for you, because you need to, firstly, what I would say is you need to become one with the culture, right? Especially if you move into a new city, you move into a new country or whatever, and you want to call that place your new home, you become one with that. So as Indians, I don't know why we've sort of still held on to that stereotype. I don't want to stereotype anyone. I don't want to sort of bring to attention all of that, but we've sort of stuck with our own communities. So I feel it is very, very advisable, and it gives you a global citizenship perspective. If you move around, interact with the other cultures, interact with the other students, that makes your life a lot more easier, because in the long run, you're also networking, right? So when you start networking at that age, when it's time for you to land a job, all of these things will come into play, and each of these little things that you do will play a part in you landing a job and you settling down and calling Canada your new home. So I think one of the disadvantages, of course, which we bring on ourselves, is we don't really go out and explore. So we need to be a little more. We need to have a little more of that, ideology where we want to explore, go out, learn new things, come back, right? And there's a saying that I always tell every single student that I speak to: when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Of course, nobody's saying forget your culture, forget everything that you do, right? That still needs to be a huge part of what you do, but try and blend in and try and become a global citizen. That's gonna sort of steer the ship in the right direction for you tomorrow.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think a lot of people that come back after studying abroad, actually, the ones that really enjoy it and stay here and make a life for themselves, whether that be the UK, Canada, wherever it is, it's because they assimilated the culture. It's because they enjoyed it, they blended in, they made friends who are not Indian, and immersed themselves. Whereas the people that can't wait to get back are the people that never made any friends, never put themselves out there, never, you know, and in that case, maybe study abroad isn't for those kind of people that don't want to immerse themselves in a culture and don't want to explore. Not everybody's, I think some people, this is what I felt in all of my years of experience. I think some people, maybe because of a language barrier, don't have the confidence to be able to communicate with people. But I think in a place like Canada in particular, where there's so many Indians already, and so many immigrants, even if your English isn't perfect, it shouldn't inhibit you from putting yourself out there and speaking to people and being brave. Because I think, what did Caesar say? Fortune favors the brave. So it is very, very important to actually get out there. And I couldn't agree with you more. I think it really, really dictates the experience that a student has and the opportunities that then come and unfold during their time abroad. So yeah, thank you for that. I think that's very, very, very useful perspective.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, just pulling that out of my own experiences. So, you know, it's something that I've been through, and I go around testifying the same thing. And it's more like I want to make an impact on the students who are looking to travel abroad, study abroad. It's the basic things that count, right? You know, I've also worked while studying, right? I wanted to be a part of it. So that entire thing, you got to look at it from a larger perspective. Of course, yes, Canada's a very sparsely populated country. There's not too many people to begin with. But then, you know, that itself should give you an opportunity to go around the city, go around, you know, you'll be a little more open to interact with people, not just from university, but, you know, join some other recreation clubs, you know, be a part of the community. That way, you tend to make your life much more easier as well.
I was going to say, yeah, I completely agree. And also student unions. I think student unions are quite important to meet friends, meet people. A lot of people stay in their rooms or just do some study or maybe just make some friends in their halls. But it's actually really, really important to go to your university events, your union events, because you meet a lot of people, but from a different variety of interests and backgrounds. So, you know, you might join not just the cricket society, but you might join maybe some other societies where there's a bigger mix of people and people that you can go to meet. In terms of another addition to that point, part-time work. I think probably part-time work is very, very important just to be able to get an idea of how the country works, what is expected of you as an employee when it is not so important. Because remember, in post-study work permits or post-study work, people will be applying for skilled jobs, right? So maybe whatever their university degree is, whether that's in IT or in business management, whatever it might be. However, when you're doing a part-time job, it's an unskilled job generally, you know, in as a waiter, whatnot. But you get to understand the culture, the work culture, be it unskilled or skilled. You get to understand, right? You know, if I have to be here on time, I have to be here on time. You know, how a boss is going to behave or what is expected of you in general from clientele and from society as a whole. So I think that really does polish you up and point you in a direction which helps you further on down the line, rather than having had no exposure during your study and then suddenly applying for jobs after you study and then having no exposure of what is required in the work life. Would you agree?
Oh, 100%. See, I couldn't have actually said it any better than you did, because it's an investment. Even though you're doing the part-time job, that's possibly not going to count towards your actual work that you do tomorrow. But you know, it's the soft skills that get transferred, right?
Absolutely.
It's not the technical skills that you're going to pick up from a part-time job. It's the character building skills, the soft skills, the interpersonal skills, right? How do you communicate with someone? The social skills. All of these things will automatically get transferred into the actual job that you're looking for tomorrow. So I don't think I could have said it any better than you did. But yeah, Neil, that's possibly nailing it right in
there. Superb. Yeah, I think it's a very, very good point. And yeah, exactly as you said, soft skills. Like you have to invest in it. If you think you'll do everything at the end, it won't happen, because it's what you put in that you get out, isn't it?
100%. I mean, it's not like an exam where you can muck it up the night before and then just go spit it out on the final paper. It's something that absolutely. I mean, even to this day, I'm still learning a lot of interpersonal skills, right? You know, I've been through the whole cycle, but I still don't want to stop, because I know there's a certain benchmark that somebody who's come before you has set, right? So you just got to keep your line of vision focused and just walk down that direction.
Superb. Thank you so much for that. It's very insightful. So in terms of the actual University Canada West, and whereabouts you guys are based. You've got a fantastic new campus, really awesome. It looks state of the art and you know, akin to maybe the CN Tower. I only joke, but it is a fantastic campus. Tell us a little bit about it, and tell us about. I mean, we've covered Vancouver, and we covered that early. And like you said, it's like the kind of Bangalore of Canada. And in terms of, I think it's really important for people to be able to understand that. And it is such a growing. I think the highest property prices are in Vancouver now as well, versus Toronto or anywhere else. I have a real estate background, so I can't help but be interested in that kind of thing. But yeah, look, it's a very up and coming place. A lot of jobs, a lot of investment going into Vancouver. In particular, so and a very strong Indian diaspora there as well. Not that we're encouraging other people to step out of the diaspora, but nevertheless, just for when you want to have some Indian food, you know you've got it in Vancouver as well.
Yeah.
Right? So okay, tell us a little bit about the university then, seeing as we've covered the area and the campus.
Yeah. So we moved into a new campus. It's called the Vancouver House. It's actually it's received an award for being the Future Project of the Year in 2015 at the Singapore Architecture Awards. So ever since then, everyone's had their eyes set on the new campus, the building. It's basically a really tall building. Unfortunately, because we're in the heart of the city now, so the new campus is very centrally located. It's in a district called the Beach District, right? So that itself gives you a picture and an idea of what you can expect for the campus that's located right next to the beach and the port. So Vancouver has a lot of these yachts and stuff that keep coming in, and the campus is very close to that area. So what's happened is now that building has brought about a lot of other establishments around the campus.
Right.
So there's a lot of commercial properties, there's a lot of other commercial establishments that are coming up in and around the campus, and the campus itself is a green campus. So it's a really tall building, but it's surrounded by a lot of these green spaces around the campus. Okay, so I don't know if I can possibly put it in a picture, but you guys who are watching online, you can possibly just Google it. It's called the Vancouver House, right? So just Google that image, and then you get a fair idea of what it looks like. It's a really tall building, so unfortunately we can't accommodate students on campus, but I'll talk more about accommodation when we touch that point. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of these new commercial establishments will give students, an opportunity to also do their part-time jobs around the campus also, because there's going to be a lot of restaurants, a lot of shops popping up in and around, the building and the other parts as well. The most important part is it's our brand new campus. So what we've done is we've made it a campus that will house 3,400 students, right? So it's about a 90,000 square foot property. So about 3,400 students will be accommodated. We were supposed to move in last year. Unfortunately, because of COVID, there's no on-campus learning yet. But there is some good news. We're possibly looking at July or October this year to return to our on-campus learning. So that's a huge plus point as well.
Can you describe that in terms of people who are going to apply now? So people who are going to apply for the university now, they'll most likely be going straight into in-class lessons in the actual new campus, won't they?
Yes, that is correct. So we don't know if it's going to be July or October. We're waiting for the BC government to give us the go-ahead. If it's July, fantastic. If not, we'll have to wait until October, because I think 70% of BC is returning to on-campus learning in October. All of the major universities. UCW is also a part of that group. So hopefully, by the looks of it, I think it should be October. So everyone applying for October and onwards will be returning to campus for their study.
Really good. Okay, fantastic. In terms of COVID, how COVID has affected for any, for our students that are watching, who are a little bit worried about COVID, and what measures are in place from the university's point of view, and perhaps what measures or safety measures have been put in place for the academic year. Can you give us any insights on what's changed in terms of the university and in terms of the country? What does it feel like? How's the lockdown there? Because obviously the lockdown, the rules, the restrictions are different per country. and they vary quite a lot. So what's the situation in Canada?
All right. So see, I'll begin off with Canada. As a country, they're doing really well right now. Okay, it was pretty bad, and then they had a couple of lockdowns going in and around Ontario and other provinces as well. Out of all of these provinces, again, British Columbia has somehow managed to still stay on the top. So the least number of cases were reported in British Columbia compared to all the other provinces as well, which is like a big deal considering
you have one of the largest populations. Yeah, very good, right? Very good.
So they still managed to do it. They've managed to sort of conceal the spread pretty much, and the government has also given a lot of assistance to the universities and colleges in ensuring that the spread is sort of reduced at a very bare minimum. How UCW has sort of stepped into this role in supporting its students is we were still able to pick up our students and sort of lead them in the direction where they begin their classes online with us, right? So we were offering this to students. I know that visas have been delayed because of the COVID process. The visa officers and wherever the visas are processed, offices had remained shut for quite some time in Ottawa and also in a couple of other parts of Canada where they do it. So as and when that was being streamlined and coming back into play, UCW offered this to the students, saying that you can begin your classes even without a visa, right? And some of the other advantages that came along with it was if you started your classes and if your visa was refused. Right now, we all hope that a visa does not get refused, right? But we still want to have a backup plan in place. So the backup plan was, in case the visa gets refused and the study permit doesn't come through, the student will still be eligible for a full refund, right? So that's something that we brought into play so the students don't waste any more time. They can begin their study with us. I know a lot of them have already wasted an entire year in 2020, and not too many of them are willing to waste another year. So to sort of ease that gap down for them and to reduce that gap year if they've taken any, we've introduced this system of the full refund in spite of a visa refusal. We've also introduced from the January and the April intakes for this year, we've had classes running according to various time zones across the world. Right, so students need not stay up. I know if it's say at 9 a.m. in Canada, it's probably 12 a.m. in India, right? So it's pretty much like a day and night situation. So we didn't want students to sort of stay up all night. They can carry on with the rest of the day as well. So we started introducing classes to students according to the Indian Standard Time during the day. So 9 to 5 Indian time, you'll have your classes scheduled for you. So that's another huge plus point that we brought through. The last one is, of course, when students travel to Canada, they are supposed to quarantine within, like a hotel property or something else where they just sort of need to isolate themselves. We were also offering students $650 towards a hotel voucher, redeemable as well.
Oh, that's awesome. That's well, it's a really, really nice initiative. If I just want to reiterate some of those points for the students listening. Look, I think it's really, really important to have an institution that's there for you throughout this and trying to make it work. At the end of the day, it is a pandemic. Every country's rules at the border will change based on where the people come from, whether those places have a higher amount of the virus or a different strain or not a different strain, et cetera, et cetera. But what you need is for your university or institution to back you up and to support you. To provide classes online at a time that is possible for you to do. If you can't travel, whereas make all the provisions for you to have safe social distancing and really, a safe environment for you to learn in when you are there. And the fact that it does safeguard all of your post-study work permit rights. So all the rights you would have, they are still the same. So even if let's say the pandemic got worse, for example, and people can come to Canada, they would be able to do their online classes in India while they're at a time that suits them, and then be able to come to study on campus at the university as soon as the borders opened up again. Let's just say that was the case, and do the rest of their classes taught in class, and then have no consequences for their post-study work permit. Is that right?
Yep, that's correct.
I think that's incredible. I think that's really, really incredible, because I think a lot of students, what they do is they don't want to apply because they're worried. But what we always say to students is apply, because you have a right to defer your entry if there is anything. But if you have a university like UCW that is really there to support you and to provide you classes online, you can start your course and then travel maybe 2 months later. So you're not wasting 6 months of your life. or indeed you could defer your entry. So so maybe if you're worried about the situation, you could defer your entry once you've got the admission offer. You can defer your entry by 6 months or whatever to the next intake. So another bit of the thing that that I really want to stress to students is always apply ASAP, because at least that way you have an answer from the university, and then you have an offer in hand, and then you can decide whether in fact you want to go for this intake, whether you want to do some online classes from India and then go away, or whether you want to or whether indeed you want to study elsewhere or defer your entry until the next 6 months and then stay in India and then go ahead after that. So I think that's really good. So I couldn't stress to the students enough that not all universities do that. It's not universally available. There's only certain universities and certain types of colleges and certain places or universities that really try and go that extra mile to help their students. So yeah, thank you. I think that's really handy.
100%, like you mentioned. Yeah.
So coming back to seeing as like we agreed that or we know that a lot of the students that want to come and study in Canada and Australia for that matter, they really do want to be able to take advantage of the full post-study work permit that they will get. So can you just tell the students a little bit about how the post-study work permit works? How long it lasts for? What in fact is the employability rate for the university in particular when students leave UCW after graduating? How many of them get jobs, and how long can they work under the PSW for? If you could answer those questions, I think those are really important. And students listening, so far the webinar and the feedback that's coming through is really positive, but I think this is probably one of the most important points that we need to touch upon.
Absolutely. Let me start off with the post-study work visa. Like we mentioned earlier, it's 60 to 70% of the students look forward to this because it literally makes your career. So what we can sort of look at is now the post-study work visa in Canada, fairly straightforward. There's no two thoughts about it. You come to Canada, you study as a bona fide student, you finish your program, right? So all of UCW's programs, we have 4 programs, right? We have 3 undergraduate programs and 1 graduate program. So all 4 of our programs are post-study work visa eligible, right? So not all programs, bear in mind this, I don't want to, although we're talking about UCW in specific, anyone planning to study in Canada, just keep in mind that you go to a university or a college that is a DLI and that is offering you a post-study work visa after your study, right? Unless you just want to go there, study and come back, right? I don't know if there's too many students who want to do that, then of course you're more than welcome.
I don't think there is many students that want to do that. I'm sure they want to take the experience, get a working experience, and really progress their career past their graduation. So you are right. I would hazard a guess and say it was closer to 90%, but yeah, for the sake of argument.
Right. So pick a university or a college that is offering you this, right? So UCW definitely offers this to our students because all of our programs are post-study work visa eligible. So how this works is you complete your program for 2 years with us or 4 years or whatever program you do. So you can get a post-study work visa eligibility for up to 3 years in total, right? So all in all, if you do an MBA with us, so it's a 2-year MBA and then you look at a 3-year post-study work visa, you're looking at a 5-year guaranteed stay in Canada, which is also going to help you study and also going to help you set up your career as well, right? So that way it works out to be about 5 years for an MBA, and if you're doing a bachelor's with us, that's 4 plus 3, right? So that's 7 years guaranteed that you're possibly looking at. Now, when I mean guaranteed, there are a certain few rules to keep in mind here. I know we like to break rules as always, but very important to sort of stick to these rules is you don't work for more than 20 hours a week when you're a student, right? You maintain a full-time student status, and you also ensure you're doing well with your academics and you're sort of getting good grades throughout your program and faring well at university and college, right? So these are some key important factors that the immigration department assesses when you go to because it's not a guarantee that you'll get a post-study work visa, right? It's a separate application that happens after you study. So when you finish your study, you go ahead and you submit your.
You are entitled to it. You are entitled to it. It is a right of yours as long as you have not broken any of the conditions of your visa during the time that you are studying. I think it's really important for students to understand that. So guys, Just to reiterate what Shimon said, and thank you for that insight. It's really important. You have a right to a post-study work permit. Like for example, after the two-year masters, you've got the right to 3 years, right? Yes. However, provided you do not break your visa rules beforehand, so i.e. when you're under your student visa, you are not meant to work more than 20 hours a week during term time, right? If you do exceed that, and they see that in your immigration, you will become illegible or uneligible for it because you've broken the rules. So don't do that. If that's, you are coming to make your career, not do a couple of hours extra a week when you're doing part-time work to earn maybe $20 extra and then ruin your career. That's definitely not what people should be spending the money for and investing in themselves for. So please make sure you are careful. These countries are rules-based orders, whether that's the UK, Canada, whatever it is, and it means that you should really follow that or understand that such that you're not putting yourself in a position where you're ending up inadvertently breaking any rules that you don't want to be breaking. Yeah,
absolutely.
sorry.
Yeah. No, that's what we're saying. Like, I've seen cases and I've seen students actually be refused the post-study work visa because of that. So always think about the bigger picture, guys, right? For everyone listening in today, it's always about the big picture, right? Like Rahul mentioned earlier, just for a couple of hours or 20-30 bucks extra, you want to go around and ruin the rest of your career, or sort of even mess up everything that you've done so far to get to that position, right? So just keep that in mind. But yes, post-study work visa is a brilliant thing to make use of. End of the day, it actually will, I wouldn't even call it the first step. It'll give you the first 5 steps into your career, right? Because 3 years is a lot of time. In 3 years, you can actually move a couple of levels within the organization that you do land a job, right? Now, coming to landing a job, I know we also touched that point. Something I'm really excited to talk about, because UCW actually has a record of 100% employability, right? For our MBA graduates. Wow. I'll say that again.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
100% employability.
So, guys, okay, just for people who don't know what employability rate is, let's clarify that just so that they understand exactly what that means. I think sometimes in India, people sometimes are a little bit worried about asking the question if they don't know what it means. So let's just give that answer there just in case. Yeah. So what does that in effect mean?
Right. So it basically means anybody who graduates from UCW, and these are actual stats. We're not making any of this up. Okay, so students who have actually graduated from our MBA program in the last couple of years, we've done a survey on them, right? So every single one of them had to complete the survey, which means you're covering the entire section. So your sample size is also the entire graduation, graduates as well. So all of the MBA students were asked one question: how long did it take for you to land a job? And 100% of them had said it took us less than 6 months to land a job.
Wow.
Right? So within 6 months, I'm not saying they got a job in like a place or a field that they weren't looking forward to. So something that they really wanted to do. So we're talking industries spread across. We're talking hospitality. We're talking banking and finance. We're talking real estate. We're talking software, tech. Even government organizations as well. Banks, everything, whatever you can possibly think of. We've got students working across the board. About 80% of them had said they landed a job within 3 months, and about 65% of them had landed a job within 1 month itself. Right. So these stats and figures are true up to April 2020. We haven't done the survey from last year until now because it's an annual thing that we do again. Maybe the numbers could have dipped from last year, of course, because of COVID. But
there's only one place to go from 100% anywhere, isn't there? You can't beat 100%. So,
unfortunately, we've set the bar too high at the start itself. Fortunately, I shouldn't use the word unfortunately. So fortunately, we've managed to nail the 100% mark from the beginning. And the UCW MBA tag carries a lot of weight along with it in the Vancouver and also the rest of Canada market as well. So a lot of students ask me, how are you able to come to this number, right? So like we mentioned earlier, we surveyed all of the students who finished their program with us, and then we gave them some time to give us their answer, and 100% of them said, yep, you know what, we got a job within 6 months, close, deal is done.
That's awesome. I really do feel like that gives an answer to maybe people who are curious about doing an MBA as well, because sometimes, you know, like jobs like IT, they're sometimes regarded as even more the most employable of many a sector, and whereas an MBA is more of a generic field of study in the sense that it's business, and you have to look for a job that wants those skills. But the fact that you guys predominantly do MBA, and that always one of your leading programs, and the fact that you have such a high employability rate does really answer that question that many people do have.
Yeah.
So coming back to programs, what kind of programs do you guys specialize in? Because I know that the MBA program is a very popular program with you guys. But what is your what other programs do you guys do and specialize in?
Yeah, so see, we're a very business and management focused university as of now, right? So we're definitely going to introduce a few more programs along the way, but for now, we want to stick to what we're good at, okay, and that is business and management. So for the graduate programs, we look at the MBA program, like you already mentioned. It is our most popular program, most sought after program. So students come from all over the world. We've got about 90 different nationalities, students coming studying with us, and this was up until last year again. But anyway, the MBA program largely focuses on 3 areas. It's not a specialized MBA, right? So it focuses on finance, leadership, and marketing, right? So along with these 3 things, there's also a very large focus on introducing some technological aspects, and we sort of incorporate some software for students to use as well. So for example, we are now implementing the use of Tableau. I don't know if too many students know what Tableau is. It is this next gen data analytical software that is set to take over the market by a storm. Trust me when I say this, Google Sheets, Microsoft Excel, everything's going to go down in the bin, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not here trying to promote Tableau, but the growth that is actually projected for this software is immense, because it lets you do a lot of things in terms of finance, in terms of business management, project management. So all of these things sort of fit into that belt of Tableau. So we give students practical hands-on knowledge on Tableau. We get them to sort of use and understand Salesforce, which is another up-and-coming software. And we also sort of give them something called the IBM co-creator and IBM practitioner courses as well, right? And lastly, because it is a marketing program, we also focus a little bit of the certification around the marketing area, where we give them a digital marketing certification, which is actually worth a few thousands of dollars. Right, so that also comes along for our students who are doing the MBA program. Now, the other 3 programs are our undergraduate programs. We have the Bachelor of Commerce, very similar to what we have in India, but unlike it being for 3 years in India, it's actually a 4-year program in Canada. Right, it covers a lot of the basic stuff around business management, accounting, commerce. So somebody who's looking to align themselves with the business field from their undergraduate study as well should possibly look at this direction. I know a lot of students in India have this habit of first doing a BTech or a BE and then looking at an MBA, right? So for those students, of course, you can still go on that path. But if you already made up your mind that you want to get into business, right, and you're not too focused on the engineering part or the science part, right, the BCom program sort of fits in really well with you there. So that's the first bachelor program that we have. It's a 4-year program. Like I mentioned, covers a lot of the aspects of business and management. The second bachelor program that we have is called the Bachelor of Arts, right? But it's a Bachelor of Arts in Business Communication. Now, in India, I know we have a certain program called Mass Communication. It's called BA in Mass Communication, which is around journalism and stuff. But this is mass communication with the business plugged in, right? So it covers your PR, marketing, communication, right? So all of these things are blended into the BA program for you. This again is a 4-year program, and of course, is delivered on our new campus and stuff as well. Now, we have an advantage with our bachelor programs for this year in terms of the scholarships, right? Only for our 2 bachelor programs this year, there is an automatic scholarship. I would not call it a scholarship, I would call it a bursary, right? Because students are then awarded this bursary automatically when they apply for the bachelor program this year.
I often try and tell people the difference between a scholarship and a bursary. It's rather interesting to see that nobody really knows the difference. But yeah, for all intents and purposes, basically, guys, a bursary or scholarship is going to give you money off your fees, right? So it is very important. How it works is a bit different. Your entitlement towards a bursary is not merit based. It's based on other factors, depending on the university, on what they would award a bursary for. A scholarship is usually merit-based, but nevertheless, you end up with paying less for your fees than you would otherwise. So it's a discount. But anyway,
Right.
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So for the bachelor programs this year, we're looking at 30 credits being offered to our students as a bursary, which equals 17,400 Canadian dollars straight. Right.
Wow.
All right. So that's almost
significant.
1 year's. Yeah, that's a huge amount. We're trying to encourage students during COVID, of course, to come to Canada. It's not like we don't have enough. We've got a lot of students, but we also want to promote, students from a young age to come to Canada. We get a lot of students for the MBA program. Of course, by the time they're already mature students, but we're targeting younger students now, right? Students who are 18 and 19 and 20 as well, to come in for the bachelor programs and study with us. So the entire program is actually for 4 years, right? So the bursary that you look at sort of waives off an entire year's fee almost. So it's more or less you pay for 3 years and you do the 4th year for free, right? It sort of aligns with the same finances. And the last program that we have is a 2-year undergraduate program called the Associate of Arts. Now, it's an Associate of Arts degree, but it focuses on a lot of topics, right from hospitality to management to finance, accounting, business, even psychology, right? So it's literally, I'd probably say the scale is that wide in terms of the courses that are being offered for the associate program. A lot of students use it as the first step into the business world, right? So if they're happy, students then move on to convert the AA into a bachelor's because they've already finished 2 years, right? So they can stay back at UCW, finish the bachelor's, and then exit. Some of them feel that they're ready for, a job in the real world, and they exit with the AA, and they're happy as well. So it also sort of depends on what the student wants to do after the AA program. It's a 2-year program, much like the MBA program. Coming to the tuition fees for all of the programs. So the MBA program is for 35,100 Canadian dollars for 2 years.
35.
Yeah. So you're looking at roughly an average of 17,100 Canadian dollars per year.
And that equates to roughly how many rupees?
Less than 20 lakhs. Less than 20 lakhs.
Significantly less. Isn't it?
That's, yeah. So in fact, you wouldn't possibly look at, getting yourself an MBA from a university for less than 20 lakhs nowadays. Very, very difficult to find. Even in India, I've got a couple of friends who've done their MBA from, various colleges and universities from India, more or less end up chalking out the same amount. So it's around 20-25 in India as well.
In fact, I was just seeing, there's so many numbers when you convert it into Indian rupees. 17,000 Canadian dollars is around about, it's about 10 lakh basically, isn't it? Yeah.
So roughly 20 lakhs for the whole thing.
Yeah. So I don't see how you can get much cheaper than that, particularly for universities, particularly when you have post-study work, which will be, near 2 or 3 years at the very minimum, or mostly 3 years. You'll make that money back so quickly. It probably won't even take 6 months to, less than a year to make that money back for your whole tuition fee. So I think it's incredible opportunity for people. And I always do encourage students to work out what their ROI will be, what their return on investment will be. So you should calculate 2 years of fees. How much is it going to cost? How much is 2 years of accommodation going to cost? And then what is my earning potential after that? Bear in mind that the earning potential in Canada is very, very high. The jobs are high paid. And when you're earning that money, you'll find very, very quickly before your 3-year post-study work permit is up, you've made a lot of money and then ended up with a lot of savings as well. Would you agree?
100%. I mean, it's all the money saved is money earned. 100%.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, exactly. Plus your employability for people who want to come back to India after doing an MBA, maybe join a family business or whatever it might be. It's a crucial experience to see how systems work abroad and then come back to India. It doesn't mean you have to escape India. There's lots of opportunities in India as well. But when you are an international citizen, you've had the benefits of seeing how big companies abroad work, how the systems work, you're in a very, very good place to be able to implement your learning, either from a managerial perspective or otherwise within your own company or a parental company or a company that you start or a startup in India itself?
Yeah, I've actually got a success story to share with that as well. I've got a friend of mine,
Fantastic.
right? So I grew up in Hyderabad. Okay, so I have had a friend there who was from a family that had their own business, and it was more into like a retail store. It was a small one shop kind of a deal. So he decided to leave, go do his MBA abroad, come back. So he studied in Canada, in fact, right? So he studied in Canada, came back, and now he's taken that up, and within a span of 5 years, he's expanded that to 10 stores, right? And then you
Wow.
go back and you ask him, how were you able to sort of do this? He always says, and I always say this as well to anyone I meet, studying abroad was the best investment I've ever done in my life. 100% hands down, the best investment I've ever done. And I don't think anything would even come close to today. No matter, the return on investment could be much higher tomorrow as well. But, when I always look back, studying abroad, 100% is the best investment I've ever done.
Because it's an investment in yourself. You're not
Yeah.
buying some stocks and shares which you just sell and then forget about them later on in life. It's you, and I'll second that, because I have a lot of friends. When I was studying here, obviously this is my home country in the UK, and in London, I did all of my degrees from London, all three of them, engineering, law, and business. And all the Indian friends that I made, from bachelor's straight through to masters, and Indian friends, by what I mean is Indians from India.
Right.
They were different people when they left, and much more confident, much more independent. The communication was much better. Their ideas, they were bustling. Their minds were bustling. I mean, I have the good fortune of having a lot of high-profile friends in India that are, that their parents have big companies, so on and so forth. But they've been able to really, really expand those industries really, really well and really fast from what they've learned. And that's just the ones that have maybe a parental business behind them. The people that have come back and then set up startups of their own, they've run them really efficiently. They've run them really professionally, with ideas and systems that are bustling, that they've learned from abroad, and they've gone ahead and done really, really well. I know of a few examples, but I want not to take names too much on the webinar. But yeah, it's a lot of success for people that have studied abroad. I mean, some of the biggest names, Sundar Pichai, all of these, yeah, exactly. Satya Nadella, and all of them. Indra Nooyi as well. She's a Pepsi, isn't she? So
Pepsi,
they're all people that have studied abroad. But they started with studying in India, then they studied abroad, and then they became pretty much instantly recognizable names now. In the top seats in some of the biggest companies in the world. So it really goes to show.
100%. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you any more than that. So
I wanted to, I actually, before we move on to other points, I wanted to sort of have the students know, and we'll end the segment, and we'll start the ending phase of the webinar, because I know that once we go too much beyond an hour, people start losing concentration. So. What do you think? I want to give these guys advice. I want the students listening to be able to know what is the best way that you can get a scholarship. What are the most important parts of applying? Because many a time I explain to students that the quality of your application is extremely important, right? So I wanted to talk a little bit about you from a university perspective. How important really is it to put a quality application? What difference does it make, and what advantages can a student see, perhaps, from investing in making a really, really good quality application?
Yeah. So there's a lot of things that go into an application that sort of makes it stand out, because honestly, we receive hundreds of applications every week, right? So how do you make your application stand out is you got to ensure quality is maintained through your SOPs, to your resume, everything, right? So the attention to detail is very important, because what admissions sort of looks out for is something that catches the eye first. Of course, it's more or less like applying for a job. Let's be honest. Okay. whatever
Yeah,
classes that I've had.
you have to stand out from hundreds of students, not just from India, but from all over the world, right?
Absolutely, right. And that number that I gave you is only from India, by the way. Right, so we've got hundreds of applications coming in from India alone, right? So you put it on a global scale, that's about 1,000 a week, right? Out of which not everyone is guaranteed an admission. Okay, so how do you ensure you crack admission, and how do you get accepted into a university or a college of your choice? Is you've got to pay a lot of attention to the detail. Okay, and I think you guys have done a fantastic job that way, because every application that we've received from you so far has gone on to get accepted. So that way, Admissify has sort of maintained that quality and maintained what we need and what we look for in an application, right? So going back to that, your resume has to be really crisp and clear. Your SOP has to be immaculate, right? There's no better way, no better words for me to even describe it. Immaculate is the SOP, right? Because the same SOP can then be used for your visa purpose as well. Okay, so you could.
I'm a big SOP advocate. I can't shut up about it quite often in the webinars. So just if I can stop you there, just and 1 second reiterate it. Guys, I have seen hundreds of SOPs written by Indian students in India. And I don't mean people applying for bachelors. I mean people who have worked in the Supreme Court of India, who are lawyers and are applying to do an LLM abroad. I have an LLM as well, so I can, when I'm reading their, I'm a Master of Law, so when I read a statement of purpose from a person who's worked in the Supreme Court of India and is applying to go abroad and is very confident about their SOP, and then I read it and I highlight the whole thing because it's not concise, not clear, not saying to the admissions tutor what it is that makes you different, stands you apart, why you want to go to that university, why that city is the right city for you. What I want people to know is an SOP that's 4 pages long is no good. An admissions tutor that has hundreds of applications to go through is not going to be able to go through 4 pages of you waffling on an SOP, talking about I studied this and I studied that and I had this marks and I had that marks, because they can see that in your profile, what marks you had. And they don't care about every little nitty gritty thing that you did while you were at school. However, what they really want to see is why do you want to come to that university? What program, why does that program mean a lot to you? Why do you want to invest your money and your time and your life in that program? How will that program help you do what you want to do in the future? How will you be an asset to that university while you're studying there? And how will what you achieve after you graduate from that university also bring credit to that university? I.e., you go on and you do something which makes a name for yourself and it takes a name to the university as well. So there's a lot of work to tie into around about 600 words, right? So that's what I want to reiterate out of you saying that the SOPs are very important. I want to tell people that yes, the SOP is very important, but it's not so. That doesn't mean that you write 5 pages. It has to be very concise. It has to be what you've achieved in your life and what you want to achieve and what you are doing needs to blend in together very, very seamlessly and make you shine shine apart from the other applicants that would be applying. So you don't just want to read boring stuff. It comes on to interviews. So I've taken hundreds of interviews in India, and for staff or other people, or practice interviews for visa assistants, because we do practice interviews for visa assistants as well. So when our students go, they know what to expect from their immigration interview, so they're not baffled, and that's why we have 100% visa rate as well. But what we do in that is give people a bit of a mock interview, and it's amazing how different culture. Like you've done interviews in Australia and Canada, and you've probably maybe even taken an interview in India, and there's a massive difference. It's an Indian person that hasn't been trained in the way that internationally interviews should be will come and basically read you out their CV. I am Johnny Blogs, and literally read off their CV, and it's incredible for somebody who's not used to that, which is most people in the UK, Canada, Australia, or anybody who wants to give you a job or wants to give you a place in a university, to have an interview style which is so lacking in imagination, so lacking in in anything substantial other than reading out a CV, which you already have as an interviewer, is really, it takes away from that candidate. It gives them a really bad shot. Whereas otherwise, if they knew just that the style of interview was a bit different, or the style of writing an SOP is a bit different, and to do it in that way, it would give them a much, much better opportunity. Would you agree with that?
100%. Like you mentioned earlier as well, just adding to what you said. I mean, like, it's how well you connect the dots from what you've done earlier in your education, whatever it is, right? And how well you connect the dots to what you want to do in the future. Okay, so you've got to align.
Within that.
100%. How is this program and how is this university going to help you get to where you want to get to, right? You've got a certain plan, you've got a certain picture in your mind that you've already made up. Now it's up to you to decide how you're going to align all of these things, make sure they fit into one line, right? Because not just
let's communicate that efficiently.
Yeah, 100%, right? Because you don't have an opportunity to speak to the officer nowadays, right? Not everyone gets an interview, because the only way, even the admissions officer or the visa officer, be it either of them, they're going to read you from that piece of paper, right? And how well you've documented that is very, very important, which is why I said it has to be immaculate, right? You can't go wrong with an SOP whatsoever, because that is the defining document. Your marks are they're literally not going to pay any attention to your marks. Trust me, in India, we have this habit of looking at marks, but they're not going to get you anywhere. They're not going to get you anywhere.
I explain that to so many students all the time. I said, if you've got a really, really good SOP and you have 65%, you'll beat the guy who has 70% and a really bad SOP. Whereas in India, people are drilled into the fact that if I have 90.1 and somebody has 90%.2, they will get the admission and I won't. So it is a completely different entry requirement, admission process, and qualifying process. From an admissions tutor, qualifying a student or a candidate for a place or an admission into the university, it's entirely different to what Indians in India grow up being used to. And that's not wrong. There are different systems in different countries, but it is wrong to plan according to what you think exists in India and not update your strategy according to what is the truth outside of India, where you as an international student are wanting to apply to study abroad. And I think that is so crucial. Students must understand that. I think some students, a lot of the time, they don't care about how their application is going. They just think, oh, he can apply, I can apply through this, I can apply through that. It doesn't matter how I apply, I just need to apply. And they don't realize that it is who you apply from and the way that they help you apply that makes all the difference as to whether you get a scholarship or an admission versus not getting it. What advice would you impart on that point?
Couldn't agree more, because like I mentioned earlier, let me just take Admissify, for example. Why go somewhere else, right? You guys have been with us for quite some time. And the sort of SOPs, the sort of applications, and the sort of resumes that come from you guys, I know that a lot of effort goes in, not just from you, but also from the student. What I really like about this entire process is you are teaching the student which direction to go in, right? You're not doing his job for the sake of doing it. You're sort of putting them in the direction they need to go to, right? This is what you need to do, and this is how you structure your SOP, and you guys give them the reasoning behind it, right? Which is what I really like as well. So, in fact, I remember speaking with a couple of your team members earlier when I was in Delhi last month. I remember I spoke to them. I said, how are you guys constantly, giving me solid applications? He said, we spend time with the students. It takes time for us to understand what sort of a background the student has come from, what sort of assistance do they need. So it plays a massive role in, polishing your product and, putting it out there. You have a certain, let's say, for example, a student has a certain product, but they're not 100% sure if that's going to make it or not, right? So going to get advice from people who have been in the industry, massive advantage, because they know how to sort of polish that. And in return, you're getting knowledge on how to polish it again, right? So you're not just looking at them do it for you, you're learning from them as well. So that in fact, I think that plays a massive role.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, because as amazing as UCW is, and as amazing as the opportunities that are available to students who graduate for UCW, such as having 100% placement and then actually being able to get a job mostly within a month, otherwise within a few months of graduating, you've got a job. And we all know what a master's paid job in Canada can get you. You're talking around about 60,000. Am I right? At least $60,000 plus every year. It's significant. These are life-changing jobs, life-changing decisions that students should be making or will be making. But it's always good to be informed when you make those decisions. And I think I'd like to really thank you for really putting your points across and making sort of being able to tell students from your own experience as well how things are done and how things help. Yeah, I think if we help, as long as students are putting in a good application, I think they can get a place with you guys, an admission with UCW, and that, I think that's the start of changing their lives for the good, for the future, and literally the career of a lifetime, pretty much. It's either that or being in India, or competing for the same places and paying the same money in India, which is also a good. I'm not saying it's bad, but in terms of a career, if I had the opportunity to study abroad, understand another system, work for a few years abroad, and then come back to India, but being a much sharper and much more effective tool, I would much rather do that than stay in India, stay in my comfort zone, where I have everything for me from childhood. Because most people who are planning to study abroad, they've had a comfortable upbringing, or generally a comfortable upbringing. You're still you're in your comfort zone. You've got your friends down the road. You're in a good school. You've got a car. You might have a driver or something of that sort. And it's so easy. What does students in India have to really do until or when your family is there, when you have a decent backing in India, you don't really have to do anything for yourselves. It's you really understand what it is to be an independent person and be thrown into the deep end once you go abroad and you realize actually hang on a minute, how do I do everything, right? And then you relearn everything, but from a fresh perspective. And I think that changes people for the whole life. I've seen it as well.
Yeah, I'll just add two things before we sort of conclude. One thing is just adding to what you said. All of the learning that you do happens outside your comfort zone. Simple. It's as simple as that. Life happens outside of the box that you live in. The moment you're willing to step outside that box, that is where life is. Right? We might think that life is our four walls, or the house that we live in, or the cars that we drive. Right? The moment you step outside out of that routine, get yourselves out of a routine and try and get yourselves uncomfortable, that is what life is, right? And then when you come back like you can literally, like you mentioned, and you come back to India, you will stand out from every single person, right? Everyone will be like, whoa, okay, I wish I did this. Then again, nothing wrong with studying in India, right? You're just broadening your horizons when you get a chance to study abroad.
Absolutely.
Right. So
absolutely.
I'm just
Sky's the limit when you come back. You see people empowered, like, I can do anything. And it's really important. By the way, just before we do, I think we are almost concluded, but I wanted to maybe, if you want to take any points. There's a couple of questions here that I think somebody's asked.
Yeah, we can run them.
Very, very quickly. How many backlogs will be accepted for an MBA? So what's your...
that's a very common question that we get, but I'll keep it very simple. We don't judge you based on how long you took to complete your course or your previous program. As long as you finished it, we're okay with it.
Perfect. Again, Ms. Kaur, if that's your question, it basically means UCW are not going to discriminate against any of the backlogs, how long it took you to do your course, as long as you completed it. You're all good. So that's very positive. Another question: if I go for UCW Fast Track MBA, will I be eligible for a 3-year post-study work permit?
Yeah. So if you do the program within 18 months, you're still eligible. But I wouldn't 100% recommend doing the fast track, because you lose out on the student experience. It's hardly, you're only saving 6 months, right? It's not going to give you too much. What are you going to do with 6 months? Instead, make use of your summer and your winter breaks. Because when you fast track it, you're adding extra courses, or you're going to university during your summer, your winter breaks. Although it is available, if you think you can do it, go ahead. But
I was
if you
going to say
want the actual,
one maybe an alternate. It's a 40-hour. I know very much about Europe. From what I know, in Canada, part-time work is 40 hours when it's not term time, isn't it?
absolutely. So there's no cap on the limit as well. So you can do like 10 jobs, and nobody's going to hold you against it.
Right. So I was going to say, if somebody for Simran, if you wanted to take that really valuable advice that Shimon has just given, and said that, look, really you're just condensing your course by 6 months, but then you're losing out on your holidays. Instead of that, perhaps you might want to stick with the normal program, and then use your summer and your winter holidays to do part-time work. And actually, you're not limited to 20 hours a week. You can do 40 hours a week in those holiday periods, and really make some money and get some really valuable experience for your post-study work after, because you're obviously very interested in having 3 years of post-study work. You really want that. So if you really are interested in 3 years, I would suggest that you don't try and condense your course by 6 months, but instead use that time valuably, gaining experience in the workplace, because it will set you up for your 3 years that you're looking forward to after you graduate. So
absolutely, yeah. And not just that, sort of, go around, explore the rest of the city, because you're not going to get a chance again. And your holidays is the time where you can actually go away for the weekend, go downtown, go away into the mountains and the hills. There's a lot of things that you can do in Canada. It's such a massive country, right? So make use of your holidays that way.
Yeah. You get to see some moose and some elk. Good stuff. All right. What is the exact percentage can accept for MBA? I think John was trying to ask what the entry requirement percentage is, the minimum entry percentage required for an MBA.
Right. So there's two things that I really want to point out here. The first thing is students with a BCom or a BBA, right? If you've either done a BCom, a Bachelor of Commerce, or a Bachelor of Business Administration in your undergrad, you need to score anything more than, I think, 72% to be eligible for the MBA program directly. If you come from a non-business background, you can't directly apply for the MBA program. You will have to either do the GMAT, score 500 on it. You need to have 3 years of work experience, or you can choose to do the MBA foundation program that we have in place for students who come from a non-business background, to sort of help them get into the program and sort of understand how an MBA is structured, so that it doesn't become too difficult for them when they actually begin the program, right? So for those coming from a non-business background or from a business background as well, the entry requirement for the MBA foundation program is 58% and above. So 2.33 out of a 4.33 CGPA. Right. So that's the basic requirement. But if you're coming from a BBA or a BCom background, you need 72% to directly qualify for the MBA program.
Fantastic. Okay, John B, I hope that answers your question. But yes, for more technical questions and to understand exactly what you've done and what applies to your particular circumstances, you can download the Admissify app. You can speak to any students on there. You can speak to any counselors that are available to chat to you there, and they'll advise you exactly based on what your circumstances are, how best to apply for what program at UCW. I think there was one other question we were getting. Sonia has asked, what are the best job websites in Canada? I think this is, I think these are universal. I don't want you to answer that question, Shimon. I think that's not a relevant question. Obviously, the university has a cell for placement, in terms of helping placement cell at the university. They will discuss with you what websites to go for. There is absolutely no point in us giving you the name of some websites like Indeed.com or Read.com or Monster.com. It's not an appropriate question. I'm not going to say that it's for lack of trying. It's good that you tried to ask that question, but there's many ways in which people can help you and actually get you something, as opposed to giving you a magic www.url, which is magically going to get you the job. That's not the way it works. It depends on what program you've applied for, and that's where Admissify comes in. It depends on what university you've gone for, what program you've gone for, and what the employability rate is, which is where UCW comes into with 100% track record. And Admissify, of course, helps you get is one of UCW's best scholarship getters. So if you apply through us, we'll help you in our best possible way to get a scholarship. And then after that, you can use the university placement cell, as well as using Admissify as well, because in Europe, we have our offices abroad as well. And we do help you modify and update your CV and do mock interviews with you to help you get set up for getting your PSW job, right? So there's lots of help, and you'll get that help come the time, rather than, this magic URL that I don't think is going to answer that particular question. But it's always nice.
Just wanted to add another thing as well here, Rahul, really quickly, is that I think I probably discussed this with you earlier, is that anybody applying through Admissify this year for UCW, right? There is no application fee. We waived that fee completely off if they apply using your app, or however you've integrated the application for them. If they come through Admissify as their consultant and their agent to UCW, there is no application fee for this entire year.
Fantastic. Well, look, thank you very, very much. That is incredibly important. So students, guys, there's no application fee. It's waived off for Admissify students. So please make sure that you do. If you are interested and if you are eligible, we will counsel you accordingly. UCW is a fantastic university. It's not costing you anything to apply. Plus, should you need, you can defer an entry, or you can, with UCW, you don't even need to defer an entry. Where I normally say that people need to defer an entry, with UCW, you don't need to defer it, because they will provide you the facilities to do your classes online until such time as you want to or can come, and then you'll be in class in the fantastic new campus. Again, guys, if you Google Vancouver House UCW, you will see what that campus looks like, and it's awesome. So I can't wait until we pay you guys a visit in Canada, and we can do a tour of the campus ourselves. So I'm really looking forward to that as well. Somebody has said a bachelor's from Open University will accept. They're saying, will a bachelor's from the Open University be accepted for an MBA?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. As long as it's a recognized institution.
Fantastic. Preet, as long as it's a recognized institution, and you can find that out by sending us your documents, and then we'll plug it in and see if it'll be accepted. But most likely, if it is from a recognized institution, it will be. So looks like Preet is very active with the questions. So that's very, very well done. It's always good to ask more questions and get good answers, guys. I think that I always say curiosity and inquisitiveness never killed the cat, but it always gives you a lot of valuable information. So yeah, thank you so much. I think we've covered pretty much everything. It'd be really, really nice to have you on again at some point in the future, and we'll do one of these for other students closer to the time. Guys, if you have us on Facebook, Admissify on Facebook, there's more videos there for you to watch. At the same time, as far as UCW is concerned, please do apply. Please do send us your documents. Let's see what opportunities are available for you, whether you can meet the eligibility criteria. And if you do have any other questions, we'll probably do another one of these webinars, more interactive version. It's sometime down the future, and you can invite your friends to attend the next one. And if you have any further questions for us next time, we'll be happy to answer them then. But okay, look, I just want to thank you again, Shimon, for coming, spending your valuable time with us, and giving the students such important information, which really does empower them and enable them to make the right choices and ask the right questions. I always say answers are 12 to the penny. You've got to make sure you ask the right questions. And so thank you very much for imparting that really, really solid, invaluable advice from somebody who's been there, done that themselves. Very, very important. And I'm sure the students, as they've left throughout the comment section, are very, very thankful to you for your time and your advice as well. Guys, thank you very much for listening and for attending another Admissify seminar. I do try and make sure these are shorter, but the information is so important and so good, and I enjoy the discussion so much that it does tend to go over. But I have really enjoyed it today with you, Shimon, and I look forward to speaking with you soon. And I'd like to thank you on behalf of the students and on behalf of Admissify for your time and your advice.
Thank you so much, Rahul. It was a pleasure as well. Always, like I mentioned, always a pleasure coming back to Admissify and doing these interactive sessions with you guys. Definitely looking forward to a few more in the future. So if anybody hasn't really gotten in by then, who's on this session, can come back again. If you need a little more, you need that extra push again, you can come back. We're always there. And thanks again for this opportunity, Rahul. Thanks so much.
Oh no, it's a pleasure as ours. Thank you very much, and we'll be here soon again. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.